Welcome to the Be That Healing Girl podcast. And on this episode today, we're going to talk about what to do with yourself when they feel distant. Crowd favorite, certainly doesn't feel like a favorite, but this is going to be a great episode for you where you're going along your business midweek and all of a sudden, oh my gosh, they're not texting quite as fast, or you can kind of feel that moment where you think something's shifting and you don't know how you know, right? It's like nothing's really changed, but maybe they're not doing anything wrong and you're just sensing with your spidey senses that they're somewhere else today and they're somewhere else and you've officially checked out. And the thing that I see again and again is that you know that their distance probably has nothing to do with you on some level. Like they told you very clearly that they were going on the business trip that they really didn't want to go on. They had this big project, like literally they told you, and you know in your brain that you know that logically nothing is wrong. And at the same time, you are slowly starting to lose your GD mind. Right? And you maybe you go quiet too, right? You go a little quiet to quote unquote match his energy. You're like, well, he's not texting, so why would I text, right? And you hope quietly, secretly that he'll notice or they'll reach out or, they'll just kind of take a step forward and they don't notice because hint, hint, they're not mind readers. And now you're both distant. And quite honestly, you started it, right? And another kind of thing I see is trying to keep the conversation going or working really hard to keep it going. You know what I'm talking about? So that is a very common thing that I see. There's a bit of a pattern to this, and let's dive into it. And if you are new here, I am Claire, and I'm a relationship coach. I love helping high achieving, high performing people who you have it on paper locked down, right? You are the corner office executive, or maybe you've got a lot of freedom. You run the team, the logistics, the metrics. Maybe you're a bit of an academic nerd. You've got some letters behind your name, right? Mr. and Mrs. Smarty Pants. Or maybe you also are an entrepreneur. Maybe you're in finance. And while everything on your resume and LinkedIn is super locked in, super tight, you feel totally unraveled the moment that you feel like, ooh, they didn't put the emoji, or they're a little quiet, quote unquote, or you just want them to be a little bit more loving with you, right? Feels kind of off. So if that is you, you're in a good place. And if you were enjoying this episode or any other episode, hitting the 5 stars means so, so much. Literally, if you haven't done it, thank you for doing it. Keeps this podcast free. And it helps you to know that I'm just screaming into a void. So there we go. And I am really excited because I want to tell you exactly what to do with yourself in that moment and what to not do about them and what it has to do with you. And it's going to feel a bit counterintuitive. I know that. So stay tuned for that. And something that I know for me when this doesn't happen to me anymore and what it actually changed and what it feels like. So before we dive into that, quick little shout out to my one-on-one client, we'll call her. And she sent me this message, and I was thinking about where she first started, where she was freaking out the moment his quote unquote energy shifted. She would read into everything. She couldn't stay in her own lane. Right? She felt like she was like drifting into his lane and into what he's doing. And she recently sent me a message where she said, now I haven't been freaking out because I'm focusing on his actions and I haven't felt anxious. His actions are so loud now too. And what I love about that is anxiety can feel really, really loud. And when you quiet that down, their actions speak so loud. It's so obvious. And you get to see it and receive it that he actually cares about her a lot. So super proud. And, the thing that really changed is she stopped decoding and started observing. It's a totally different way of behaving and being in a relationship. And it's completely different. So, so proud of you, A. You're doing it, honey. So, something that happened to me recently was Craig was abnormally like late from work. Like he comes home at like, yeah, I can kind of tell when he's on his way home. And I was really hoping and wanting that we'd have dinner together. And I just, instead of actually reaching out to him and like, hey, when are you done? I just started like making dinner and doing my own thing. And I started recognizing, oh, I actually kind of love this. I kind of like that I get to do my own thing. And I noticed that the goal, what inside myself that used to be so different, it was I would try to manage that experience and like, when is he going to be home? And we're going to have dinner together. And what I saw inside myself is to get into a different place, what's really changed, where his distance isn't some data about us or our relationship anymore, right? Where it is actually an opportunity that that can just mean like he's late for work or late from work, and it doesn't mean anything about a relationship. And that's what we're going to talk about today. All right. So this is oftentimes the pattern. If you are new here or you're an oldie, you know that this is a pattern, right? This is like an anxious spiral. Spirals are literally loops, right? If you make a spiral with your finger, it was that rigatoni, I don't know. It literally is like it's a spiral, right? Spiral pasta, whatever. Maybe I'm hungry. So one thing that I see again and again is when that distance happens, there's this urge, this compulsion to reach out into the distance and try to fix it, right? You unconsciously end up teaching yourself that distance is something that needs to be fixed, right? If they're distant, that means I have got to fix it. That's at least what I see in my clients, what happened to me before, right? So they're distant, something needs to be fixed. Or you're like, okay, I'm gonna like, okay, they're quiet, I'm gonna be quiet, right? And this is kind of funny because this is a little avoidant, right? And honestly, the way I see attachment styles is this is a spectrum. This is like not you are this and therefore you'll be this forever. No, this is like dynamic. So you try to match that, you create more distance, right? Unconsciously. You don't want the distance, but you're like, okay, well, fine. Like, they're not going to text me. And so I'm just not going to respond back right away. And that ultimately is not going to move you closer to getting what you actually want in the relationship and with them. And the thing that I think also takes this a layer deeper is that you say that you trust your partner because I'd say that the good majority of my clients are with really amazing partners. And I say majority because some of them are dating. And you know what? Sometimes we got to date some duds. I'll just be honest, right? So a lot of times, you know, you say that you trust your person, and the second that they go quiet for an afternoon, you are in this full detective murder mystery mode, right? And this is not because that you're necessarily paranoid, but trust in that form is just a bunch of talk, right? It's not a feeling in that case, right? Feeling safe is a totally different experience than thinking that you're safe, right? Feeling safe doesn't come just from thinking about it, right? It's like thinking about the gym does not make you healthy or make your bones stronger, right? And when you interrupt that time, so maybe they are out for a work thing, maybe they did say, hey, I've got a really busy week, I just really need to focus on this project, right? They actually are literally communicating to you what they need. That when you are interrupting that by, you know, trying to poke to see, do you care about me? Will you just text me to get some kind of response? With like, for example, a question that doesn't really need answering. It's not urgent. It's not a big priority in your relationship. A text that doesn't really need to be sent, just to feel that connection again, right, is really making things hard in the relationship. And the more that you try to manage the distance, the more dependent you become on that person trying to come back to you, right? So literally, it's like this addiction to that. Again, I talked about this in the last episode, a feedback loop, right? coming back to you. And you don't build trust in that, straight up, right? You actually deepen that fear of it, right? So when you are constantly in this, they feel distant and you need some kind of answer, you are reinforcing that. It's like a rubber band. You feel like, okay, well, I just got to get closer, closer, closer. And inevitably, the more that you manage it, again, the more dependent you come on them coming back. And that, unless you learn how to create feeling safe inside yourself, it's just going to come back. And what you do with yourself when they're distant is the whole thing, right? Not what you do about that partner or about the relationship, what you do with you. Okay, not what you do with your partner, not what you do with a relationship. What do you do with you? And you can do all of the right things, quote unquote. You are the best girlfriend, you're the best partner, you're amazing to them, and you can do all the right things and still create that distance if the version of you that is speaking, thinking, acting, reacting is rooted in fear, is coming from a deep feeling that you feel unsafe within yourself, right? And I know that this is such a challenge because when I think about this, when I look at, okay, I don't know what to do with myself, they should be more responsive, or why can't they just text faster? When you don't know what to do with yourself, you then become dependent on your partner, right? And so when we have this dependency, nothing's going to feel safe, right? You're not going to feel like you trust them. So because so much of real trust is in letting go of the training wheels, of letting go of that tether that you feel to them. And so when you're trying to fix that distance between you two, the space that actually needs to be looked at and worked on is between you and yourself, right? You can be alone. When you can be alone in a room with your own feelings for 20 minutes without reaching for your phone to see what they're doing on Instagram, or, I don't know, compulsively shop, whatever that is, then you can then feel more better. And that's when that distance stops feeling like an emergency, right? If you don't need that external stimulation, shopping, checking out what they're doing on Instagram, looking at their LinkedIn. I mean, I had a person come to me and they would go on LinkedIn to see what their person's up to. I mean, some of you are LinkedIn baddies, but my goodness. So that is when you are working on that internally, when this changes, when you stop interpreting quiet for something is wrong, and not only is something wrong, but I did something wrong, when you stop withdrawing in some kind of response or reaction to what you think is them withdrawing, then you let them having an off day just be an off day. It doesn't mean anything about your relationship. When you can stay inside your own life when that happens, that's not performance. That's actually what being secure really feels like. That's what being confident in your own life actually looks like. Again, and you can do all the right things and still create that distance if the version of you is acting from a scared place. So I saw this question come up in my DMs and I wanted to respond to it. And it was about, well, what about solidifying plans, right? And I think this is very correlated to today's topic around what to do with yourself when they feel distant. So solidifying plans, first of all, I get it. Wednesday comes along, or Thursday, Friday, if it's really you're really freaked out, you're well, what are we supposed to do? Are they going to actually step forward and make the date, right? And I want you to know that, I want to pose that question well, what if they don't make plans? Or what if we want to solidify plans? What about your plans? That's the question I really want to ask. What about your plans? What are your plans, right? Are you shape-shifting and saving space and holding this imaginary space for them? What about your plans? Because if your plans are their plans, I love you, but that's the problem. Okay? What about your plans? So the moment you start asking, what about us like locking it down or whatever, what about your plans? What are your plans? Right? Because that shape-shifting piece, trying to be inconvenient, makes the relationship feel hard. I know that feels so counterintuitive, but the more you try to make yourself convenient, the harder the relationship's going to feel. I know that sounds absolutely bonkers, but believe me, okay? That's literally what we work on inside the Secure Love Lab. So how are you centering? Because really, when you are centering them, that is an indicator that you're abandoning yourself. Straight up, okay? So if everything I just described is basically what you go through every single week, I just closed the doors when this podcast comes out to the founding cohort of the Secure Love Lab. But if this landed, you can DM me the word cohort on Instagram. And depending on where we're at, maybe we'll be able to make room. I don't know when this episode drops where we'll be at, but the next cohort opens soon. It's going to be closed by the time this drops. And the link for the wait list and the link to kind of save your space is in the show notes. All right, angels, really excited to see you in the lab and sending you lots of love. Mwah.